Admiral Jackson Pierce stood confidently at the crystalline podium of the prestigious Galactic Engineering Summit. His forearms were crossed in various smug postures as he surveyed the crowd of brilliant minds from across the Confederacy. The vast amphitheater within the celestial spire on Nexus Prime hummed with excitement, filled with over 3,000 delegates from 200 advanced civilizations. Together, they embodied millions of years of technological evolution. As Pierce began speaking, his voice carried an unmistakable tone of authority, one that suggested he had never been challenged or corrected. "We've now reached the most amusing part of our agenda," he announced. "The humans have requested to present their latest propulsion technology." He paused, allowing the anticipated laughter to ripple through the audience. Commander Xylarth's core, seated in the front row, didn't bother to hide her amusement. Her bioluminescent spots flickered in sync with her laughter. "The same humans who still use chemical rockets for their orbital launches?" she called out, sparking another round of chuckles. "The very same," Pierce confirmed, waving dismissively with his upper right hand. "Though I must admit, they've made some notable progress. They've even stopped colliding with their own satellites due to space debris." His comment landed perfectly among the engineers, who took great pride in their anti-gravity systems and flawless orbital calculations. Professor Ethan Stone, the renowned quantum theorist from the Silicon Worlds, raised one of his crystalline limbs. "Admiral, with all due respect to our younger siblings in the galactic community, why are we entertaining this presentation at all? Their most advanced AI still struggles with basic image recognition, and their understanding of quantum mechanics is still in its stone age." Pierce's facial ridges rippled with agreement. "Politics, my dear professor," he said smoothly. "The Treaty of S requires us to offer them a seat at these conferences. Consider it a charitable educational opportunity for them. Perhaps they'll learn something by observing real engineers at work." From his private observation pod above the amphitheater, senior analyst Maxwell Cross of the Technology Assessment Bureau made notes on his neural interface. "Subject species continues to demonstrate remarkable overconfidence despite previous miscalculations regarding human capabilities," he sub-vocalized, updating his report. "Recommend continued observation, Protocol 4. Back on the main floor, Admiral Pierce was thoroughly enjoying himself. He activated a holographic display of Earth's latest space station. "Notice the primitive solar panels," he remarked. "They haven't even mastered basic zero-point energy collection yet." The display rotated, showcasing various angles of the station while the audience erupted in laughter, pointing out its flaws. "Did you know," Commander Skor added, her spots flashing with gleeful mockery, "they still rely on manual pilots for their spacecraft? They claim it's for safety, but we all know it's because their automation systems are as sophisticated as a Drexel pocket calculator." The engineers were having such a good time that they almost missed the subtle shift in the room's atmosphere. The massive doors at the back of the amphitheater creaked open, admitting a single figure who walked with a casual confidence, the kind of presence that suggested they knew something the rest of the room didn't. The sound of human footsteps echoed, causing the smirks on alien faces to falter, just slightly. Admiral Pierce's ridges flattened in annoyance at the interruption. He checked his neural interface, and his four eyes widened slightly. "Ah," he announced, unable to entirely mask his disdain. "It seems our human presenter has arrived early. How efficient of them." Liam Adams strolled down the central aisle with the ease of someone out for a leisurely walk in the park. His simple black jumpsuit, marked only with a small Earth insignia, starkly contrasted the intricate technological regalia worn by the alien delegates. He carried no devices, no neural interfaces, not even a datapad, only a small metal cube that fit neatly in the palm of his hand. "Welcome, Mr. Adams," Admiral Pierce said, his voice dripping with feigned politeness. "We were just discussing Earth's fascinating approach to space technology." "Oh, I heard," Liam replied with a slight smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "The acoustics in here are excellent. I particularly enjoyed the pocket calculator comparison." Commander Skor's bioluminescent spots pulsed with embarrassment for a moment, before she doubled down. "Well, you can't deny the computational gap between our civilizations. My personal quantum processor has more power than your entire planet's combined systems." Liam reached the front of the amphitheater and casually shrugged. "Processing power isn't everything, Commander. Sometimes it's about what you do with it." Professor Ethan Stone's crystalline form shimmered with what passed for laughter among his species. And exactly what have humans done with their limited capabilities, besides creating space debris and burning fossil fuels? Quite a lot, actually, Liam said, holding up the small metal cube. For example, this contains the complete blueprints and operating system for what we call the quantum leap drive. Admiral Pierce leaned forward, narrowing his four eyes as he studied the simple device. You're telling us that your supposedly revolutionary propulsion system fits inside this primitive storage device? Not exactly, Liam answered, tossing the cube casually from hand to hand. This is just the basic outline. The actual drive is currently attached to a ship parked outside. A wave of murmurs swept through the audience. No one had detected any unregistered vessels approaching the celestial spire. The station's quantum sensors were known to be infallible. From his observation pod, Senior Analyst Cross's interest piqued. Subject appears to have circumvented standard detection protocols, he muttered, updating his analysis. Updating threat assessment parameters. Impossible. Commander Score's spots pulsed rapidly with agitation. Our security grid would have detected any approaching vessel regardless of its stealth capabilities. Liam's smile widened slightly. You'd think, so, wouldn't you? Liam said, his tone casual yet confident. But here's the thing about human engineers. We have this bad habit of making the impossible happen. Admiral Pierce's facial ridges flattened in clear irritation. Mr. Adams, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this is a serious conference. We don't have time for childish antics or baseless claims. No games, Admiral, Liam responded smoothly, placing the cube down on the crystalline podium. Just straightforward human innovation, the kind you all seem to find so amusing. The cube suddenly projected a holographic display, but rather than the dazzling, complicated presentations the aliens were accustomed to, this one showed simple, elegant schematics that appeared to defy the very laws of physics. The engineers in the room stared, their faces a blend of confusion and disbelief. This is nonsense, Professor Stone huffed, his crystalline form vibrating with indignation. These configurations violate at least 7 fundamental principles of quantum mechanics. 7? Liam raised an eyebrow, clearly unfazed. You might want to check your math, Professor. It's closer to 12, but that's the beauty of it. Sometimes you have to break the rules to create something new. Admiral Pierce's upper arms crossed while his lower ones clenched into fists. Mr. Adams, if you're quite finished wasting our time with these delusions. Oh, I haven't even begun. Liam cut him off, pressing a button on the cube. But since you all prefer demonstrations over discussions, let me show you what Earth engineers are truly capable of. Admiral Pierce stood tall, his forearms spread wide in a dramatic gesture that silenced the audience. Very well, Mr. Adams. Since you're so confident in your primitive technology, let's make this interesting. The massive holographic displays around the amphitheater flickered on, showcasing the records for various space travel achievements. Fastest sustained speed, shortest quantum jump distance, and most efficient fuel consumption, all held by different member species of the Confederacy. A challenge, then, Pierce continued, his voice thick with smug satisfaction. Break any of these records, and Earth will gain full access to the Confederacy's engineering archives. Fail, and humanity will be barred from presenting here for the next 50 years. Liam glanced at the displayed records, casually slipping his hands into the pockets of his jumpsuit. Just one record? Seems a little underwhelming. Commander Score sprang from her seat, her bioluminescent spots flashing rapidly. You dare suggest breaking multiple Confederacy records? Our finest minds spent centuries setting those benchmarks. Centuries? Liam whistled low. No wonder they're so modest. The amphitheater erupted in indignant voices. Professor Stone's crystalline form vibrated violently, producing a high-pitched resonance. The quantum sprint record was set by my own team, 10 light-years in under 3 minutes, using standard quantum tunneling principles. Impressive for last century's tech, Liam commented dryly, unimpressed. From his observation pod, Senior Analyst Cross noted the rising tensions, recognizing warning signs that were familiar from previous episodes of human technological disruption. Recommend escalating protocol immediately. But Admiral Pierce was already ahead of him. His neural interface connected with the station's mainframe, pulling up the most challenging course ever designed for testing new drive systems. The Gauntlet, Pierce announced, his voice laced with cruel satisfaction. 12 checkpoints through the most dangerous regions of space, quantum storms, gravity wells, dark matter clusters. The holographic display revealed the treacherous course. Several ships have been lost attempting it. The current record holder took 3 days to finish it, and that was considered nearly impossible to surpass. Complete the gauntlet, Pierce declared with authority, and we'll acknowledge humanity's engineering capabilities as equal to our own. A new voice rang out from the upper tier. Equal? They should be grateful we even allow them in this facility. Senior Engineer Taldra Jarai of the Drexel Dominion stood, her cybernetic enhancements gleaming in the dim light. I suggest we raise the stakes. When the human fails, Earth surrenders all independent engineering research to Confederacy oversight. Liam raised an eyebrow, intrigued. And if I succeed, Pierce sneered, convinced of humanity's impending failure. Fine, Liam said, nonchalantly tossing the cube between his hands. When I complete the gauntlet in under an hour, the Confederacy will recognize Earth as the leading authority in propulsion technology. And you, Admiral Pierce, will personally oversee the implementation of human engineering principles in all Confederacy vessels. Laughter erupted from the room. An hour? Pierce proclaimed with unrestrained glee. The fastest ships in the Confederacy couldn't even make it to the first checkpoint in that time. Done. Your pathetic human vessel against the gauntlet, Pierce added, his voice full of mockery, though I doubt you'll even manage to get a ship past our security grid. Liam smiled, pressing another button on his cube. The massive window behind the amphitheater shimmered, revealing a ship that, by all rights, shouldn't exist. Sleek, almost predatory in design, its lines seemed to warp reality itself. No visible engines, no conventional power systems, just pure, innovative engineering that made every alien device in the room look like children's toys. Meet the quantum leap, Liam announced as the engineers stood in stunned silence. She's not much to look at by your standards. No fancy decorations, no unnecessary flourishes, just pure human innovation. Commander Sikor's spots flickered out completely. Our sensor, they still can't detect it. How? Liam grinned, walking toward the massive window. That's the funny thing about human engineers. We've spent so much time being told what's impossible that we stopped listening, and then we just went ahead and did it anyway. Admiral Pierce's facial ridges flattened, devoid of expression. You'll need a crew, support systems, quantum calculations that would take days to— No, Liam interrupted. I won't. Because that's the other thing about human engineers. We like to keep things simple. He held up his cube one last time. One ship, one pilot, 1 hour to change everything. The quantum leap drifted in space like a shadow that had somehow learned to distort light. From certain angles, it appeared to disappear entirely, only to reappear when viewed from another perspective. The ship's hull wasn't just black, it was an absence of color, a void so deep it caused Admiral Pierce's eyes to sting whenever he tried to focus on any part of it. Impossible, Professor Stone muttered, his crystalline form vibrating as he scanned through every known spectrum. The hull material, it's not reflecting or absorbing energy, it's redirecting it. Liam glanced around at the stunned faces of the engineers. But that's exactly what it is, he said with a smile. We found a way to manipulate quantum fields on a macro scale. The engineers scrambled to process the information. Like I said, Liam continued, enjoying their confusion, humans have a habit of doing the impossible. Commander Sikor's neural interface was practically overheating as she tried to analyze the ship. There are no power signatures, no radiation emissions, no quantum wake. It's like the ship exists in a constant state of quantum uncertainty. Exactly, Liam said with a shrug. Existing and not existing at the same time. Funny how studying Earth's old cats gave us some interesting ideas. The amphitheater's massive displays flickered with calculations as the engineers tried to explain what they were witnessing. Numbers raced by at breakneck speed, each equation more complicated than the last. All of them attempted to reconcile how a species considered primitive could have created something that defied the very foundations of physics. Senior Engineer Nova's cybernetic eyes zoomed in on the ship's hull. The plating pattern, it's not random, but that would mean his voice trailed off. Fractal mathematics, Liam confirmed with a nod. Turns out those pretty patterns we discovered centuries ago had some very practical applications in quantum field manipulation. Admiral Pierce's facial ridges turned ghostly pale, a clear sign of stress in his species. You expect us to believe that human mathematicians somehow discovered principles that our quantum computers have been struggling to uncover for millennia? Not discovered, Liam corrected. We just approached the problem from a different angle. While you were building bigger computers to brute force solutions, we were drawing pictures and looking for patterns. Sometimes, the simplest approach is the most effective. The quantum leap powered up, but powered up wasn't quite the right phrase. Instead of the expected glow of energy systems coming online, sections of the ship flickered in and out of reality. The effect rippled across the hull like waves on a quantum ocean. The design, Professor Stone muttered in awe, his crystalline form vibrating with a mix of excitement and fear. It's not just the hull, the entire ship is a quantum computer. But that would require materials capable of maintaining coherence on a macroscopic scale. Yes, Liam acknowledged. Theoretically, it's possible, but the engineering challenges were monumental. We went through about 300 prototypes before we found the right combination of materials and geometric patterns. Lost a few test dummies along the way. But that's just part of human engineering. We're stubborn. From his observation pod, Senior Analyst Cross's systems hummed as he sent data to Confederate High Command. Subject vessel represents an unprecedented technological leap. All previous assessments of human engineering capabilities must be revised immediately. Commander Score's bioluminescent spots pulsed in frantic patterns, indicating cognitive dissonance. The internal space? Our scans can't even process it. How many dimensions is this operating in? Depends on how you look at it, Liam said with a shrug. Technically all of them, but also none of them. We've found that space is more of a suggestion than a rule when you're working at the quantum level. As various systems on the ship powered up, its apparent size shifted dramatically. At times it appeared smaller than a shuttle, and then it seemed to stretch into infinity, only to snap back to its original dimensions. The power source, Admiral Pierce demanded, his voice now tinged with urgency. Where is it? Every ship needs a power source. Liam's smile grew wider. That's the beauty of it, Admiral. It doesn't need one. The ship generates its own energy by existing in a state of quantum flux. Those pretty patterns you see? They're harvesting zero-point energy directly from the quantum foam of space itself. No fuel required. Professor Stone's crystalline form had gone completely still, the sign of shock in his species. But the computational requirements to maintain such a state, the quantum calculations alone would require the processing power of a human brain. Turns out, we were right about consciousness being a quantum phenomenon, Liam said, finishing his thought. Once we understood that, the rest was just engineering. The amphitheater fell into complete silence. The Confederacy's greatest minds stood motionless, staring at the ship, a vessel that didn't just represent a leap forward in technology, but a complete redefinition of what was possible. Of course, Liam added, clearly savoring the moment. This is just the prototype. The production model will be much more efficient. We're thinking of calling it the Einstein-Rosen class, in honor of an old Earth scientist who helped us down this path. Admiral Pierce's neural interface was flashing with warning signs of imminent overload. You're telling us this is just a test version? Yeah, Liam replied, casually checking the countdown timer on his cube. Had to start somewhere. But don't worry, she'll be more than capable of handling your little obstacle course. Speaking of which, he gestured toward the ship, and a section of the hull simply ceased to exist, revealing an entrance. Shall we get started? That hour isn't going to wait for us. The moment Liam Adams stepped into the quantum leap, reality seemed to hold its breath. The ship's entrance didn't so much close as it simply decided it no longer needed to exist. You think you understand what's possible? Liam's voice rang out with an easy confidence as the cube projected a countdown timer. 1 hour to achieve what the greatest minds in the Confederacy had deemed impossible. Well then, he said, his smile sharp and knowing, let's see if we can make the impossible happen. The quantum leap hung motionless in space like a shadow that had somehow learned to bend light. From certain angles, it appeared to vanish entirely, only to reappear when observed from a different perspective. Its hull wasn't just black. It was an absence of color, a void so deep that Admiral Pierce felt a strange sensation in his eyes whenever he tried to focus on any one part of it. Impossible, Professor Stone whispered, his crystalline form vibrating as he scanned every known spectrum. The hull material, it's not reflecting or absorbing energy, it's redirecting it. Exactly, Liam confirmed with a grin. We've figured out how to manipulate quantum fields on a macro scale. The alien engineers scrambled to comprehend what they were seeing. Like I said, Liam continued, his amusement growing, humans tend to have a bad habit of making the impossible happen. Commander Score's neural interface was practically overheating as she desperately tried to analyze the ship. There's no power signatures, No radiation emissions, no quantum wake. It's as though the ship doesn't exist in the conventional sense. Exactly, Liam said with a shrug. It exists and doesn't exist simultaneously. It's like we're surfing on quantum probability waves. The massive displays tracking the course showed the quantum leap appearing and disappearing at various checkpoints, but not in any predictable pattern. First, it was at checkpoint 3, then at checkpoint 1, then the 7th, and back to the 2nd. Each appearance lasted mere microseconds. The gravity well at checkpoint 4 will destroy him, Admiral Pierce declared, his facial ridges now pale with stress. No ship can maintain quantum coherence in those conditions. In direct response, the quantum leap appeared inside the gravity well. Rather than being crushed, the ship seemed to absorb the immense forces, growing brighter for a moment before emitting a pulse that caused the gravity well itself to hiccup. Senior Analyst Cross's observation pod was running at full capacity, processing data at an unprecedented rate. Subject vessel seems to be using fundamental forces as a fuel source. Gravity well intensity decreased by 0.23% after interaction. The ship continued its impossible journey, defying the laws of physics with each movement. At checkpoint 6, it split into 3 identical copies, each taking a different route before merging again at checkpoint 8. At checkpoint 9, it appeared to reverse time for 2.3 seconds, arriving before its own quantum signature. The dark matter cluster, Professor Stone whispered as the ship approached checkpoint 10. Nothing can navigate through that. The quantum interference patterns alone would. But instead of attempting to navigate through the dark matter cluster, the quantum leap did something entirely unexpected. It convinced the dark matter to briefly stop existing, creating a corridor of normal space-time that ignored the surrounding chaos. Commander Score's neural interface had given up trying to keep up with the data and was now displaying nothing but error messages. He's not just breaking the laws of physics, she muttered, disbelief creeping into her voice. He's rewriting them on the fly. The ship neared the final checkpoint, an area of space so distorted by competing gravitational forces that even light struggled to pass through. Conventional knowledge said it would take hours to even calculate a safe path. Liam took only 3 seconds. The quantum leap appeared in the heart of the quantum storm, its hull now rippling with patterns that made traditional geometry look like child's play. For a moment, it seemed to exist in every possible quantum state at once, a visual manifestation of Schrödinger's thought experiment taken to its logical extreme. Then it did something that made several engineers faint. It created a quantum resonance cascade, synchronizing with the chaotic fluctuations of the storm. The effect spread outward, bringing order to chaos through applied mathematics and human ingenuity. He's stabilizing the quantum storm, Professor Stone stammered, awe and shock evident in his voice. Using the same principles we use to solve basic wave equations. But that would mean quantum mechanics follows the same patterns at every scale. Liam's voice came through again, tinged with a playful amusement. Yeah, we figured that out while working on our primitive quantum computers. Turns out the universe loves elegant solutions. The quantum leap made one final jump, reappearing exactly where it had started, aligned at precisely the same angle. The timer on Liam's cube showed 58 minutes and 43 seconds. Test flight complete, Liam announced, as the ship's entrance phased back into existence. Course record updated. Quantum storm at checkpoint 12 has been stabilized. As a bonus, you're welcome. He stepped out of the ship, looking effortlessly casual, not a hair out of place. The only sign that anything extraordinary had happened was a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Oh, and Admiral, Liam added, glancing at the still-running displays. You might want to update your physics textbooks. We broke about 15 impossible barriers today, not just 12. Human engineers are thorough like that. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, the Grand Galactic Engineering Summit fell completely silent. 3,000 of the greatest minds in the Confederacy sat motionless, their biological and mechanical systems struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Admiral Pierce's facial ridges had lost all color, signaling complete neural shutdown in his species. His forearms hung limp at his sides, his neural interface sparking intermittently as it attempted to reboot. So, Liam, he said weakly, tossing his control cube from hand to hand, about those engineering archives? And I believe there was something about implementing human principles in Confederacy vessels? Commander Score's bioluminescent spots had frozen in a pattern that translated roughly to existential crisis. The quantum storm, you didn't just navigate it, you fixed it. With math. We teach children, Liam replied with a grin. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Your civilization spent so much time developing complex quantum computers that you forgot to look at the basic patterns. The same mathematics we use to draw pretty pictures on our primitive computers turned out to be the key to understanding quantum mechanics at every level. At a fundamental level, Professor Stone's crystalline form began vibrating at a new frequency, one that indicated deep thought. The fractal patterns in your design, they're not just decorative, are they? Got it in one, Liam confirmed with a slight grin. Turns out the universe is recursive. The same patterns repeat at every scale from quantum foam all the way up to galactic superclusters. Once we realized that, applying the right geometric principles was just a matter of time. Senior engineer Nova's cybernetic systems had finally finished rebooting, and now they processed the information with a fresh perspective. But the power requirements, the computational complexity, these are minimal. Exactly, Liam finished her thought. We're not forcing the universe to do anything. We're just speaking its language, mathematics and probability. The quantum leap doesn't fight physics. It cooperates with it. From his observation pod, Senior Analyst Cross was transmitting his final assessment. Confidence rating in previous technological hierarchies, 0%. Recommend immediate reclassification of human engineering capabilities to Class 1 civilization status. Admiral Pierce, still in shock, barely managed to speak. His voice was faint, almost a whisper. All this time, while we were laughing at your chemical rockets and primitive computers. We were learning, Liam said, cutting him off. Every failure, every explosion, every crashed probe taught us something. We didn't have the luxury of quantum computers to solve our problems, so we had to think outside the box. And you know what? That turned out to be our greatest advantage. The holographic displays were still running calculations, trying to explain how the quantum leap had completed its impossible journey. The numbers made sense individually, but together they painted a picture that shattered the many laws and theorems the Confederacy had held as absolute truths. The quantum resonance cascade, Professor Stone ventured cautiously. You used it to stabilize the storm, but that same principle could be applied to, well, practically everything? Energy production, waste management, climate control, and even faster-than-light travel without the dimensional tears your current drives cause, Liam suggested. Like I said, simple solutions. Commander Score's spot started pulsing again, but now in a pattern indicating dawning realization. Your ship, it's not just a vessel, it's a proof of concept. A demonstration that everything we thought we knew about quantum mechanics might need some revision. Exactly, Liam finished. Don't feel bad about it. We had some advantages you didn't. Being underestimated is often a powerful motivator. Admiral Pierce stepped down from his podium, his forearms extended in a gesture of complete submission, something never seen at the summit before. The terms of our agreement will be honored. Earth will be acknowledged as the leading authority in propulsion technology, and I will personally oversee the implementation of human engineering principles. Good, Liam said with a satisfied nod, because that's the other thing about human engineers. We like to share. All those beautiful patterns we've discovered, they're not just for spaceships. They could solve half the energy crises in the Confederacy overnight. The implications hit the gathered engineers like a quantum wave collapse. Earth hadn't just created a superior propulsion system, they had unlocked the very secrets of the universe, using mathematics so elegant it almost seemed like art. But why? Admiral Pierce asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Why show us this now? Why not keep these discoveries to yourselves? Liam smiled, and for the first time, there was no trace of sarcasm in his expression. Because that's not what humans do. We climb mountains, and then we build elevators so others can enjoy the view. We solve problems and share the solutions. We look at the impossible and see opportunity. He picked up his cube one last time, adding, besides, someone had to show you that the universe is far more interesting than your quantum computers lead you to believe. Sometimes you need to stop calculating and start dreaming. The quantum leap hummed softly behind him, its hull patterns shifting in ways that now seemed less impossible and more like poetry, written in the language of physics itself. News of the quantum leap's demonstration spread through Confederate space at a pace that would have impressed even Liam Adams. Within hours, Engineering departments across thousands of worlds were downloading Earth's previously overlooked research papers, now searching for the elegant patterns they had dismissed as primitive. The celestial spire's quantum networks nearly collapsed from the surge of academic institutions requesting access to Earth's mathematical archives. The same fractal patterns that once adorned human computer screens were now being analyzed with intense focus by alien scientists. Professor Stone, in an emergency conference with quantum theorists, was nearly vibrating with excitement. The implications are staggering. Their so-called primitive image compression algorithms contained the keys to quantum field manipulation all along. We just never thought to look. Commander Score's spots now pulsed in a pattern of deep respect whenever she spoke about human engineering. Her previous mockery of Earth's manual pilots had evolved into admiration for humanity's intuitive grasp of quantum probability waves. They weren't behind us at all, she explained to a group of young engineers. They took a completely different path. While we were building bigger quantum computers, they were learning to think like the universe itself. Senior engineer Nova had already begun applying fractal patterns to her cybernetic systems. The improvements in efficiency, as she put it, were beyond the limits of our previous understanding of what was possible. But it was Admiral Pierce, perhaps, who underwent the most dramatic transformation. The once proud leader of Confederate engineering now spent his days poring over Earth's early computer graphics papers, marveling at the hidden complexities in what he had once dismissed as primitive pixel art. As Liam prepared to leave, he found himself surrounded by the same engineers who had laughed at him only hours ago. Their questions came rapid fire, each one tinged with respect and a hint of embarrassment. But the quantum resonance, one asked. How did you stabilize it without a supercomputer? Liam held up his hand, counting off on his fingers. Mandelbrot set, Julia set, a bit of Fibonacci sequence, and some good old-fashioned human stubbornness. Sometimes the best computer is the one between your ears, Liam mused, reflecting on the surprising turn of events. Senior Analyst Cross's final report to Confederate High Command contained a single, succinct line. Recommend immediate reclassification of Earth from emerging civilization to don't make them laugh at us again. As Liam walked back toward the quantum leap, Admiral Pierce hurried to catch up with him, his forearms ringing nervously. There's one thing I still don't understand, Pierce admitted. The demonstration, the technology, the sharing of knowledge. Why do it with such flair? Liam grinned, his expression a mix of amusement and pride. Flair, dramatic flair, satisfying narrative structure. Pierce blinked, taken aback. Well, yes, but Liam paused in front of the ship's entrance, which, as usual, decided to appear just for him. Admiral, he began thoughtfully, has it ever crossed your mind that maybe, just maybe, we wanted to be underestimated? That every mockery, every dismissal, every little condescending pat on the head only made us push harder, work smarter? He stepped into the ship and then turned back with a smile that would no doubt haunt Pierce's dreams for years to come. Besides, after being called primitive for centuries, we figured we deserved at least one really good I told you so. Consider today's demonstration our way of saying thanks for the motivation. With that, the quantum leap vanished again, this time with an entirely unnecessary but undeniably satisfying burst of fractal patterns that briefly transformed the laws of physics into a mesmerizing light show. In the aftermath, a changed Confederacy was left behind, one that would spend the next few centuries realizing that sometimes the most advanced technology looks strangely like art, that the simplest solution is often hiding in plain sight, and that underestimating humans, well, that's almost always a spectacularly bad idea. And somewhere, in a distant corner of Confederate space, a young alien student gazed at an outdated Earth computer display and asked the question that would ignite the next revolution in quantum engineering. But why does it have to be so complicated?